Welcome to Unity of Wilmington's online virtual spiritual experience. You know, when you start thinking about virtual spiritual experiences, they're all virtual. They're all virtual, but we do welcome you to Unity of Wilmington, a part of a worldwide spiritual movement that builds consciousness. We're so grateful that you're here, and we're going to begin with prayer, with knowing our oneness with God, with knowing the strength that lives inside of us. No matter how weak or small we might feel, helpless in any given moment, we can always reframe and return to truth, to return to our divine nature of compassion, of love, a willingness to be with others and to be with ourselves. And so it is. Amen.
I was fragile. I could tell you I was weak. I could write you out a letter, tell you anything you need. I've seen minutes turn to hours, and hours turn to years, and I've seen truth turn to power. If you could see me the way I see you, if you could feel me the way I'd feel you, you'd be a believer, you'd be a believer. Minutes turn to hours, hours turn to years, and I've seen truth turn to power. I could tell you I was ageless, but I know you see the light. I could tell you I'm immune to everything, but that's a lie. Dust don't turn to flowers, skies don't disappear, but I've seen truth turn to power. If you could see me the way I see you, if you could feel me the way I feel you, you'd be a believer, you'd be a believer, you'd be a believer, you'd be. Hard to keep going on. I said it's hard to keep going on. It's hard to keep going on. Ooh. If you could see me the way I see you, if you could feel me the way I feel you, minutes turn to hours, and hours turn to years, and I've seen truth turn to power.
LaRaisha, Dionne, thank you so much for singing with us today. What a beautiful, beautiful opportunity for us to stand in our truth and recognize how our truth can bring us to power. What is your truth? Our truth can empower us. What is it that you're willing to stand up for, to take a stand for? Have you ever had the experience of you're talking to somebody and they have a different opinion of you, and you really care for them. And so you're a little bit concerned about whether or not you should speak your own truth because they're so adamant about their truth. We're at a crossroads in that moment. A point where we're going to have to decide, am I willing to take a stand for what I believe in? Am I willing to stand up for who I see myself to be? Am I willing to say, we're different, and that's okay with me? And to learn to embrace those differences. Am I willing to do that? And in what areas of my life am I willing to take that stand? Some areas may be easier than others. But when we take the stand, we are being ourselves, our authentic selves. When we take the stand so that we're standing in what we believe. Now, what I'd like us to do is to learn how to come from a consciousness of love, of joy, of harmony as we take that stand. So all can be included. So our anger and our sadness and our fear can be included in who we are and how we are with each other. So that as we are together, we can share those parts of ourselves, as well as the joy, as well as the generosity, as well as the fun-loving spirit that we can be. So that when we come together face to face, when we come together heart to heart, when we come together across the universe via technology, we can still share all of ourselves, our most authentic self. And as we do that, we can really rest in the knowingness that we are enough. We truly are enough. Co-founder of Unity, Myrtle Fillmore, took a stand on what she believed. I'd like to share that with you this morning. Her stand was, I do not believe in evil. Now, she wrote this in 1897. I do not believe in evil. I believe in good. I do not believe in sin. I believe in truth. I do not believe in want. I believe in abundance. I do not believe in ignorance. I believe in intelligence. Myrtle Fillmore took a stand in 1897 at a time where she was in a surrounding that was very traditional Christian. And this stand that Myrtle Fillmore is taking back then is the same stand that we take in Unity churches across the world. That we believe in good. We believe in abundance. We believe that we are created in the image and likeness of God. That from that belief, we believe that our nature is divine. It was a big stand then, and at times it may feel like a big stand now. It may be a stand that's different from some of our family members. It may be a stand that's different from some of our friends. Sometimes people don't want to talk about anything about their belief systems that have to do with God because traditionally people have started wars over those belief systems. And yet what I know to be true as I read across religions, world religions, and as we get to the higher truths, that we can stand in those higher truths because they are pretty much the same. Spoken differently, spoken by different prophets, spoken by different people who have come to be a master teacher as we see Jesus in the Unity movement. But the truth, many of the truths are the same. Let's look at those because it is through our self-knowledge, our understanding of who and what we are, and that's who and what we are. It's through that understanding of who and what we are that we can step forward with a sense of competence. We can step forward with a sense of knowing who and what we are. There is a power in that knowledge. We can step forth and stand for our beliefs, to choose and choose again what our stance is in consciousness. So I'd like to share some of that. Who we are. We are beloved expressions of God. Now, Myrtle Fillmore would have said, I am a beloved child of God, but we're inviting maturity here. We're beloved expressions of God, and we are unique as those expressions of God. So in the midst of us all being an expression of the divine, of God, of all that is, of our higher power, whatever word you want to use for that, we're still unique. I wish I could sing like LaRaisha sang today. Oh my gosh, I wish I could, but I don't have that gift. I have different gifts. And we may have some same gifts, but we still have different gifts. And we express the gifts. Even when we have similar gifts, we express those gifts differently. And that's part of how the entirety, the whole gets created, is that we bring our own unique expressions to the whole. We bring our own unique expressions to community. We bring our own unique expressions to relationship. And when we learn to embrace that whole, embrace the difference as well as the similarities, when we learn to be excited by and appreciate the differences as well as the similarities, we are in the flow of life. We are flowing as life itself. Who and what we are. What we are is our nature is divine. We were created in the image and likeness of God. Our nature is divine. Now, it sounds audacious to say that, and sometimes it's really scary to embrace it, to say, I am divine. And then there might be that moment where you wait for the lightning bolt to come. And some of that's going to depend on how you grew up in and what spiritual tradition, if any, that you grew up in. And this is a difference. Reverend Mindy grew up in unity. I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. And so when I first came into unity, I loved the ideas and they scared me. It was a both and for me. I felt so drawn to them. And I was afraid. I was afraid that if I was really willing to embrace my divinity, then I would become egotistical. And yet in God, there is no ego. So how, when I'm fully embracing it, my divinity, how could I become anything less than love? How could I? It would be impossible. Because as I stand in my divine nature as fully as I can, in the consciousness that I am in, and I fill up that nature as much as I can today, hopefully it's more than yesterday, and hopefully it's less than tomorrow, that tomorrow I will embrace my divinity fuller with a greater knowledge and a deeper consciousness. But as I do so, I can trust that when I'm truly in alignment with divine mind, with God, then the goodness that is me is what's coming forth. It's when I get out of harmony with that nature of mine, that essence of me that is divine. When I get out of harmony, that's when the fear comes in. That's when it's easy to be angry because I'm out of harmony with my true nature. When I decide to gossip about somebody, I am out of harmony with my true nature. If I'm critical of myself or critical of another person, I am out of harmony with my true nature. For God is good, all good. God is love, all love. And it is through life, the essence of life, that we are here today. And what is God's will for us? That's a hard one in religion at times. It's a hard one in spirituality at times. I grew up believing that my will and God's will were separate. That somehow I had to struggle. I had to wrestle with the angel like Jacob wrestled with the angel in order to get myself into alignment with God's will. And yet one of the things I've learned in unity is that God's will for me is that I can experience all the good I can receive, that I'm willing to receive. That's very different than how I grew up. And so there's been a process in my life of unfolding into a new consciousness, of being able to receive all the good. I can look back to experiences in my life where I received good, but I wasn't able to receive it. So I did something to sabotage that good. And as I grow in consciousness, as I understand who I am, as I'm willing to take a stand for my divine nature, then I'm able to receive with greater capacity. As I take a stand for my divine nature, I'm able to see the divinity in you much clearer and much fuller. And as I stand in that consciousness of my own divinity, and I see your divinity, then what passes between us, the energy in the field between us, is going to be of a high level of frequency. It's going to be that of love. It's going to be that of harmony. It's going to be that of joy. That very joyfulness of being together, of opening our hearts to one another. Because the moment that I step out, I'm going to experience fear. What will you think of me? What will you say about me? And will you say it to me, or will you say it to somebody else? Are you going to be critical and judgmental? What will you do? And what will others do to you? And yet, when we stand in the knowingness of who and what we are, that we are unique, individualized, beloved expressions of God, and we know that we are divine in nature, and we see each other in that manner, the relationships that unfold, that we embody, are going to be filled with love. They're going to be filled with sharing joyful stories. They're going to be filled with sharing manifestation stories. We're going to tell each other of the good that has come into our lives. We're going to hold for each other good to be in each other's life. We're going to treat each other with love and with respect. Because God's will for us is that we receive, that we are open to receiving all the good that is available to us. Jesus said it in this way: it is the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. And the kingdom is that experience of our divine nature. The kingdom is what's unique in expression to us. How we unfold it is unique to us. The choices that we make is unique to us. And Eric Butterworth teaches that we cannot do it wrong. He's following the prophet Isaiah, who says, step to the left or step to the right, and the voice behind you will say, go that way. Eric Butterworth picks that theme up. Eric Butterworth is a unity minister who's written many books. He's no longer on this earth plane. But what he shared with us while he was here was that we are the very flow of life. And so as that flow of life, we cannot do it wrong. We may step out of harmony with our divine nature, with our true self. We may step out of harmony with that true self, but the experiences that we have when we step out of that harmony will invite us back into harmony. And I don't know about you, but it took a lot of experiences for me. I would sort of come back and I'd run off again, and I'd come back and I'd run off again. That was my way. And then I was just kind of clueless, and I was just learning things that made my life better. And I was having a good life, and I was still learning things that made my life even better. And then I got to a place I was wondering, could it get any better? And I decided to go into wonder and to keep opening my arms, to keep opening my heart, to keep opening my mind and bringing them all into alignment so that I could experience even greater good. And I know if that is possible for me, it is possible for you. And to me, that's one of the best things of truth. If it is possible for one, it is possible for all. How do we go about that? In part, we need to learn what is oneness, what is our experience with the divine, with God, with all that is. Eric Butterworth goes on to say that God is a sphere whose center is nowhere and whose circumference is everywhere. And when we begin to break that down, that means that the center of God is everywhere present. This is what we talk about as omnipotence. I am the center of God. You are the center of God. We are the center of God wherever we are. The question is, are we living from that center? Am I willing to express my full divinity, to take the kinds of stands that Jesus took to say, I am one with God? That's another audacious statement, but it's stepping into that divine nature that we are. Am I willing to stand up for myself in that divine nature? Am I willing to be a stand for you, to stand in that, to stand in that divine nature? For me, the answer is yes. I'm willing to be a stand for you. I'm willing to call forth what I see in you. I'm willing to look beyond appearances and see the Christ, the God in you, the divine in you, whatever word is most comfortable for you. And I'm willing to hold it for me. Now, how do we do that in community? How do we do that? Sometimes it might be a little bit more challenging, but I have 3 of the 13 ideas from the Peace and Justice Institute at Valencia College in Florida. The first one I brought forth is create a hospitable and accountable community. A hospitable one, a welcoming community, a community where we're willing to greet each other in love, where we're willing to listen to each other's fears, but call us at the same time to live in our wholeness. A community that's open to new ideas, a community that's open to changes from the past. We've been called to do that with the coronavirus, to open up, to do community, to do Sunday service in a new way, to bring our creativity forth. How do we continue to grow? How do we continue to connect? How do we continue to be the presence of God in this world? In the midst of a pandemic, I don't know anybody who knows how to do that except that which created us. Because within us is all knowing. And so when we take the time, when we sit, when we listen, when we take the time to look for new ways, when we brainstorm together, how can we be the most welcoming community that we can be, even when we're right now an online community? Because while the building is closed, the church is active. The presence of God is active in each of our lives as much as we allow it. Because God's desire for us is to express and receive all the good that we can. We must be in allowance of it. And then how do we hold each other accountable? How do we, with kindness, say, we don't act this way in community? We're not critical of each other in community. We may give feedback to each other. We may do it in ways that uplift, that teach, that open up inspiration. We don't bully each other, but we learn how to live and love with difference, to embrace the unique, beloved expression that we all are, to make room for difference, to make room for change. Change is hard for human beings sometimes. And the biggest factor that holds us back from change is that first step. That's the biggest factor that holds us from meditation too, that first step of making the time. And then the next step and the next step that goes in that same direction. I find that interesting. But when we are willing to settle our minds, whatever form of meditation we're doing, and there are many, many, many forms, when we're willing to set our minds and let the truth of ourselves pour forth from us, then the wisdom that is already within us is also allowed to pour forth from us. And it teaches us, it invites us how to live in the midst of a pandemic. It can teach us how to live in the midst of chaos. It can teach us, if we're willing and open, how to live in the midst of whatever is going on. Sometimes we must use it to teach us to live in the midst of such profound joy that we do not know what to do with it. That much joy. But when we are willing to take it in, when we are willing to sit in meditation and learn how to expand our hearts and expand our consciousness, then we can increase our capacity for receiving joy, for receiving love. It is a full spectrum, 360-degree opportunity to live fuller, to express love in a way that we've never expressed it before, and to be all that we were created to be, which is infinite. And that level of infiniteness is often overwhelming. And yet when we take our time, step by step, day by day, meditating, reading, thinking about God, or whatever you call God, when we take time step by step to reflect on who we are and what we believe and whether or not a belief is still valid for us, when we're willing to open our minds with reading, with watching videos, with conversation that somebody has a different opinion than us, when we're willing to do that, we're expanding our consciousness. And a mind expanded can never go back to the way it once was. What a gift. The next step is to listen deeply. That's to ourselves as well as to each other. To listen to our experiences, to listen to each other's experiences, to be the presence of God when somebody is sharing whatever experience they are sharing, whether it's a hurtful one or a joyful one, to be so open-hearted that we are the presence of God for them, so that we can amplify with them, because where two or more are gathered, what they are feeling. And we can amplify our divine natures, which is love. So that if I'm feeling sadness and I come to you and you are the presence of God for me, the sadness is going to fall away if I'm willing to release it. And what's going to emerge is the truth of me, the love of me. And I can become into that action of forgiveness that I ever thought I was separate from God in any way, or separate from you in any way. Myrtle Fillmore goes on to say that when we have this understanding of our oneness, when we're willing to listen deeply to each other, then our selfishness would simply fall away. We wouldn't have to work at it. We could stand in our divine nature and be the love that we are. We could stand in our divine nature and embrace our differences. We can stand in our divine nature and be together in love, in harmony, in joy, in prosperity, to celebrate each other's abundance, to celebrate each other's gifts, even when those gifts are different from us. We can be the true light of the world that we are. Jesus taught, you are the light of the world. We can embrace it, embody it, step into it, and live it. Listening deeply, being willing to hear, being willing to let our own sadness come up when someone shares a sad story that triggers our sadness, rather than try to dampen it down, but to really allow that to come up, to allow our grief to emerge and be infused, surrounded, and suspended in love, because love is the master harmonizer and master healer. We have to be vulnerable with each other to be able to do that. But we also have to allow our truth to stand in our truth, to be able to express what we do not want as much as what we do want, to be able to say no to something as easily and as equally as we say yes to something. These are skills that we are learning in spiritual community. And the third one is all voices have value. But sometimes we don't know how to express our voice in a way that can be heard. And we are learning in this spiritual community how to do that. All voices have value because all people have value. And sometimes there's going to be a group of voices, like it's happening in present-day society, that needs to be heard in a way that's never been heard before. And that's the Black Lives Matter movement. We need to be able to hear each other's pain, hear each other's experiences, hear each other's sorrows, and hear each other's joy. We need to be able to sit with each other to understand where we come from in life. We need to be able to hear each other, to recognize the experiences that we each have had that are different. We need to be able to open-heartedly hear each other, to be the love that we are called to be in this world. But we need to be able to do it from our heart, from that consciousness of knowing who and what we are, from that consciousness of knowing that we are love and we are divine, and everybody else in this world is equally as divine as us. And when we can do that, we will come together to weave together this beautiful tapestry, a beautiful harmony. And it's a skill, and we're going to make mistakes with each other, and we need to learn how to forgive ourselves for our ever thinking that we were separate from God or separate from each other, and to bring love, open-hearted love, into our hearts, into the field between our hearts, to be able to realize that there is this energy field that is pure love that is between us. That while we may be physically distant, we can still feel that love. We can still be that light. And what we know scientifically about light is it just continues to radiate forth in life. That as we shine our lights, the light just radiates forever. For we truly are infinite, and we are infinite love. I believe our job, our mission, should we choose to embrace that mission, is to open up to how much love can we receive from the universe, and how much love can we send out, to send forth, to hold each other in our hearts, so that we come to know that we value, that you value, that everyone is of value in this world, and we are enough. We are enough because our divine nature is complete wholeness. Now, I've put some affirmations together for myself as I was thinking about this message today, this lesson today. How do I learn to love? Here's part of how I do it, and I invite you into this if this resonates with you. I commit to taking responsibility for my experience, to listen deeply to myself and others, to take responsibility for my experience. When I feel hurt, to speak it out. When I feel angry, to simply say, oh, I'm noticing I feel angry. In the same way I would say, today is Sunday, and I'm having a good time. To be able to be that neutral with no energetic charge, and that takes a skill, but we're learning how to do that here. I commit to being a beacon of light in my environment, to know who I am and to express who I am as fully as I can at the level of consciousness that I am at, to know that my potential is infinite, and to continue to step forward and to learn and to grow, to experience that infiniteness, to experience that in meditation, to experience that in relationship, to experience that in my own knowingness, my own self-knowledge. And finally, I commit to being an expression of love in this world. And I'm talking about intelligent love, love that sets limits, love that allows for me to have my yeses and nos, and for you to have your yeses and nos, and for us to find that blending and that harmony of how to do that. Coming into that awareness of our oneness with God and each other. Let's take these thoughts into a time of meditation. Breathing first into our hearts. Allowing our hearts to open. Inviting us to, and if you want to do it physically, do it. Place our arms around each other in this way, by placing our arms around ourselves. For as we are one with God and one with each other, the moment I place my arms around myself, I'm also placing them in the field around you. And just give yourself a hug for a moment. And I'm receiving your love and your energy. I can feel it coming in waves. And I hope that you can also feel the love from me coming in waves. And as we take these thoughts into meditation, as we take these thoughts and hold them in our heart, we know that we are opening our hearts to new ideas. We are opening our hearts to a new expression of an old idea, an ancient wisdom. We know that we can stand with our energy in our hearts to breathe into our hearts and breathe out from our hearts. And we know from the research and from science that it makes a difference. So I invite you to allow love and light. Light is spiritual intelligence, metaphysically, and love is the master harmonizer. To let it flow in, through, and as you. I am the flow of light and love. You are the flow of light and love. Let it fill your very being. And let yourself feel it. Feel it from your solar plexus. Feel it from your heart. Our heart is that center that connects our lower energy centers to our higher energy centers. And as it begins to connect, our whole self comes into balance, bringing forth our true nature, our divinity, and allowing us to choose from moment to moment how to step into that. Allowing us to open our arms to our infinite potential. Allowing us to stand in our truth, to empower ourselves and each other to be the light of the world, to be the love that we are, to call it forth, and to share with each other when we're doing it. I love seeing the light that is you. I love feeling the love that comes between us, that flows between us as I am with you. I appreciate how you are different from me because I'm learning from you based on how we share those differences. I'm learning new ways about the world that I did not know or understand. And then as I sit in meditation, as I settle my mind, as I listen to that which is within me, I know what action to take from that inner guidance, from the silence, that place where there is no time and space, that place where all infinite potential resides. I can stand for me. And as I stand for me, I can stand for you. And as you stand for you, you can stand for another. And as they stand for someone else and someone else and someone else, we eventually create this beautiful network of lights, of love, that's infusing and harmonizing with intelligent love, which is calling us forth to value ourselves and each other, which is teaching us how to live in harmony, to express joy, to give and receive that expression of joy, and how to enjoy life fully. Breathe into that for just a moment. Spend some time later today or at another time reflecting on your beliefs. What still works for you and what no longer works for you? Do the things that bring you joy and release the things that are an obstacle to your joy. Do the things that increase your capacity to love and release anything that's unlike love in your life. Focus so much on your own wholeness that anything that you perceive to be unlike wholeness simply falls away. And then allowing yourself to come back into this time, this place, this now moment, bringing our conscious awareness back to the present moment, to the room that you're in, to the place that you are, beginning to feel your feet, feel the chair that supports you if you're sitting in a chair, beginning to feel the presence of God within you as you feel yourself as the very center of God, the very flow of life. And let yourself look around and bring yourself back to this present moment.
It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. And if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love, for your dream, for the adventures of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring in your moon. I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, to be realistic, to remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself. If you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it's not pretty every day. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the moon, yes! It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after a night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me to know. You know. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be here. I want to know if you will stand at the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. Powerful invitation from Oriah Mountain Dreamer and from Unity of Wilmington. If you have been touched, moved, or inspired by anything that you have heard today, that anything that has resonated with you, and you feel a greater sense of peace and a resonance for co-creating a world where equity exists, if you're willing to stand up for something and you want to demonstrate evidence of your conviction, I invite you to give to Unity of Wilmington so that we can continue carrying this message of truth and inspiration in the world. We have a number of giving options. You can go to our website, and on our homepage at the bottom, there's a donate button. You can mail a check to 717 Orchard Avenue, Wilmington, North Carolina, 28403. You may give on our Facebook page. And with that giving and generosity, we are grateful. We bless your gifts by saying, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen.
You can have all the money in your hands, all the possessions anyone could ever have, but it's all worthless treasure. True worth is only measured not by what you got, but what you got in your heart. You can have everything, but what does it mean? It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. You can't just talk the talk, you got to walk that walk. Yes, you do. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. And I'll stand up for you. I'll stand up for you. Yes, I will. Yes, I will. You do the best that you can do, so you can look in the mirror, proud of who's looking back at you. Define the life you're living, not by what you got, but what you're giving. And if you bet on love, you'll never lose. Take a stand, make a stand for what's right. It's always worth the fight. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. You can't just talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. Yes, you do. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. And I'll stand up for you. Self-respect, dignity. If that's all you got, then you got all you need. And without that, you don't have a thing. Oh, no. Rise up, love. Lift your hands. I stand with you because I understand. Ain't here to judge, here to make a stand. The greater plans, the Creator's plan. Let's all rise like the day began. Reach out and touch with a heartfelt hand. On rock we stand in this native land. Let the ways of love be the ways of man. It all means nothing if you don't stand up for something. You can't just talk that talk, you got to walk that walk. Yes, you do. And it all means nothing for something, and I'll stand up for you. I'll stand up for you, and I'll stand up for you.
And this is all within the context of knowing that there's only one presence and one power active in the universe and in our lives. God the good, omnipotence. Unity publishes a magazine called The Daily Word. Every day we take a word of truth, 2 words of truth, a concept, an idea, and we put it forth for the world to hold in consciousness. Today's daily word is divine order. It's that outworking of the divine consciousness that is within each and every one of us. The affirmation for today is divine order is always unfolding in my life and in the world, for me, for you, for each and every one of us.
We are open to praying with you. There are many ways to do it. You can call us, you can text us, you can go to the website, and there's a button to submit a prayer request. I receive those, I pray over those. If you like a telephone call, simply let me know. You can email me. I'm happy to pray with you. It's one of the greatest things I do each week is to pray with other people.
Don't want to end our time without a reminder that you are a beloved expression of God.
You are here for a holy purpose.
And you are where you are by divine appointment. You're at the right place, at the right time, right now.
So as you move through your week, know that you are a beacon of light. Be that light. Let your light shine fully and brightly, so brightly other people have to put on their sunglasses. And then know that you are loved. You are beloved and you are loved. Have the best week and the most fun you can.
Standing up for something.